Hi Aquarius, welcome to your April 2020 Life Path reading. It's Rena here. So this is going to be a different kind of reading that is more philosophical, looking at your life from a larger perspective than just the mundane events, and yet still maybe touching upon them, depending on what's going on. So we're going to see here. Oops. And only you can know whether or not these are true for you. And I'm going to pick an additional card for that one. I keep getting the Hermit, but this time I got it in a different position at least, which is really interesting. So where you are right now is represented by the Eight of Swords. Being an Aquarius, you are a sword, so that's connected to the mind and to the intellect, but also communication. And in the tarot, the swords also connect with some sort of conflict, strife, whatever you want to call it. But in this case, the conflict is with yourself, where there's a feeling of being trapped maybe in your life. And this can be trapped in your job, trapped in a relationship. It doesn't really matter. The point being that you don't feel free to do what you want. You feel like you're kind of like at somebody else's mercy. But really with the Eight of Swords, the importance of this card is understanding that what you're telling yourself is the most true, is the truest thing of all. And that means that you have to be able and willing to look at your negative self-talk, if you have it, and perhaps your limiting, self-limiting beliefs, and how they are keeping you in a place that you don't want to be, whether it's a relationship that isn't working or a job that is not satisfying. For the card that represents where you want to be, and I did pick an additional card because this card, I always think, well, I don't know that many people would want to be there, but this can be a good thing. I could have left this alone. This is a card, the Five of Wands, of competition, but it can be friendly competition. So it can give you that sense of, showing your stuff, showing what you have. That's there's a word I'm looking for that's more, fire. It's connected to fire, being wands, so it's expansive. But showing what you have, and being able to, have that ability to demonstrate your talents. Maybe you're in a job where you can't do that. Maybe you have a relationship that isn't playful enough, doesn't challenge you enough. I picked an additional card just for clarification. I got the King of Pentacles. So it made me think that this was more connected to career matters, where you want to perhaps be an entrepreneur, compete financially, have that ability to make as much money as you possibly can. So what this means is that when you work for yourself, the sky is the limit. I mean, you can make, in other words, you don't have like a set salary each week. And that is a double-edged sword, because obviously if you don't have a predictable amount of money, you might not make anything for 2 weeks in a row, and that's not fun. So it's not like it's all hearts and flowers or anything like that. It can be challenging, But with the King of Pentacles, maybe there's something going on where you feel like your hands are tied, where it connects to this area of life, and you want to feel more independent and powerful when it comes to these things. It could even be owning your own business. Now, I know that, I was talking about it in terms of life path, and I didn't want to get too mundane about it and talk about these specific areas, but there's a higher purpose for that, because it's, even if, you own your own business and something like that, yeah, it has, or you make a lot more money. It may seem like that's too mundane, but actually it's symbolic for the belief in oneself beyond the physical reality around the person. So it does have more of a spiritual connotation, where it means that the person has a vision that doesn't involve whatever is in the physical. And this is so important because in life, people are more like the Eight of Swords than they are the King of Pentacles. That's just the sad truth of life. There are more people who really believe what other people tell them about life, and therefore what they start repeating to themselves about what their capabilities are, what their possibilities are. And that inhibits them, and that keeps them from dreaming big, going for it. The Five of Wands, to me, is having the confidence to go after what you want. With the Eight of Swords, you may have a lot of inhibiting factors, a lot of self-doubt that is plaguing you. By the way, I don't know, I had like a couple of pears and like my stomach is going crazy. I'm praying that it's not going to you're not going to be able to hear it. Now you're going to probably listen for it, and it's so embarrassing, but I just want you to know that it's my stomach growling. I'm not farting on camera or anything. So you just did that. Okay, so yeah, I think I've covered that. The advice is the High Priestess. Well, that is the go-to advice for anything where you're feeling that sense of, being stuck, being, not just being stuck, but being uninspired, being like, negative, pessimistic about your life. The High Priestess is about connecting to your higher self, that part of you that is always connected to God, and that we can look to for our sense of wisdom when the world is not doing it for us right now. And it's funny, and then I get the Hermit card. I'll get to that in a second, but what is the difference between the High Priestess and the Hermit? That would be a good question. I think that, and I think that there are like two aspects of spiritual inquiry. I would say that the High Priestess is more like meditation. So it is getting in touch, and with the Aquarius being an air sign, I think of the upper chakras. And this is, Aquarius specifically is associated with intuitive perception. And we talk about the mind. Well, this is like to me, the higher self is the higher mind. So there's an intelligence there. It's not just about, the mind is something that we use in a mundane sense, but we can also use to transcend the mundane, And so that's what we're talking about with wisdom, because we're talking about that direct pipeline to source energy that helps us in times when we're too stuck in whatever is happening to really be able to make sense of it all and to know which direction to go in. Now, the outcome card, the Hermit, and this is like, okay, let's look at how these are depicted. And they're both major arcana cards. Well, the High Priestess is sitting with her scroll, and she's got the moon. Now, if you, and you know, in her third, you could call it like kind of the third eye region, what's actually above the third eye. But there's the, you know, there's the, what do they call it? The moon center. I think that is the third eye, isn't it? There's the moon and the sun is the crown chakra or something like that. But anyway, I look at the High Priestess as meditation and kind of like be still and know. And I look at the Hermit as more, you know, and he's looking for that inner light. I look at that as self-inquiry. So I see the Hermit in more of a conscious capacity, and the High Priestess super conscious. So to me, the Hermit is the person who is going it alone, you know, for this period of time, because you want to be able to hear your own small still voice. And with the Eight of Swords, there may have been people in your life influencing you. Now, Aquarius is a very contrary sign, and you definitely like to do things your own way, but that doesn't mean that you are not susceptible to other people, especially if you have the moon or inner planets in Pisces, or just the, you know, the moon in Libra and things like that. You may take other people's opinions much more seriously, and it can affect you. But just by virtue of you being an air sign, you tend to be very social. And that means that you come in contact with other people. And I think like the hive mind, which is how I describe it from, you know, seeing that term and loving it. And I love that term, the hive mind. We are people, as people, a lot of people are kind of, it's like that general consensus insanity. And that is not how I see reality at all, is what the masses think. So you tend to be like that as well, and you will realize, and probably are going to realize in the near future, the need to spend that time alone. One thing that I didn't mention in the other videos where I got the Hermit card is that solitude is not simply not spending physical time with people. I was joking about, you know, what do they call that? Not shelter in place, social distancing. I don't know, you know, being in your house or whatever. And that is that just because somebody is not in the presence of another person does not mean that they are truly in solitude. You could be talking on the phone, or you could be texting, or Skyping, or whatever, and that's not the same thing. I'm talking about really maybe feeling the need to be much more away from it all. And you might even go on a spiritual retreat, because you do have two of these major arcana cards, which can indicate change, like actual change in your life, and they're both these spiritual cards. So maybe this is setting up a need to kind of like get away from those self-limiting thoughts. Maybe a meditation retreat to train your mind how to work for you instead of against you. I don't know. In any case, Aquarius, I hope that this resonated to some degree. Of course, it is a general reading, so I can hope for it. I can't guarantee it. If you'd like private reading, either like this or another type of reading, I do mainly astrological readings, and I do have a life path reading, but I also have natal chart interpretations and looking at the astrological themes for the coming 12 months and things like that. The link is below. My website is rainamoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.